tea. And specifically, it's about making steamers with aromatic teas. So I love our Meditative Mind, and we'll talk about it a little bit. I'm gonna not tip my tea because I have very little of it, but let you see this steamer that I made with vegan milk. It's with almond milk and with some Med Mind, and you can see it actually took on some color from the rosebuds and the jasmine pearls that are in there. But why is it something that, why would Med Mind be a good choice of tea for a steamer is really the topic of our talk today. And that is the whole concept of fats and aromas. So that plays into the story of Meditative Mind in two ways. First of all, the choice of what we blended Meditative Mind with. So Med Mind is a white tea, which is truly the most pure and basic of all types of tea. White tea is simply the same tea leaf that you might use to make a green tea or a black tea, but it's very little oxidized. It's not oxidized. It gets pulled off the tea tree, and then that leaf is immediately dried, and that's your tea. So it didn't get a chance to start to develop, and it developed in terms of oxidation, so develop what we know as characteristic kind of tea tannins and tea flavors, which we're familiar with in black tea. It is literally just that leaf dried. And it can be very subtle in its flavor. We just took a tea class last week, which my colleague Jessica brought up in her presentation yesterday, where the instructor, Suzette Hammond, who we work with, was very instructive in her direction with white tea. She said, many people tell you to steep white tea in that it's fragile and very much cooler water and to treat it like a very delicate leaf. Guilty. She said you need to hit it with hotter water. So I was really excited to do this presentation today and to steep Meditative Mind in 180-degree water, as she suggested, so even hotter than we would normally do our green teas. But I didn't have enough. I thought I had plenty of Meditative Mind. And then when it came to actually looking for it, about 10 minutes ago, all I found was one of our little free samples of loose Meditative Mind tea. So I knew that I wanted to talk about doing a steamer, so I did my itty-bitty steamer portion. But Meditative Mind, with its white tea on its own is very subtle and doesn't have what all of us in the U.S. grew up knowing as a characteristic tea flavor, which is more of your kind of McDonald's sweet tea or Lipton tea, kind of black tea aromas. And so because it's subtle, it's something that our palates have a little bit of trouble appreciating if we're new to tea. And I wanted to make a white tea blend when we started the tea spot that people could come to appreciate white tea with. And it did forcibly, in my mind at least then, need to be a blend. We now have evolved with a lot of our tea consumers at the tea spot, our wonderful community, and we enjoy a lot of pure white teas. I have so many friends that are huge fans of our Silver Needles white tea, or our Monkey Picked white tea, which is essentially the base of our organic Meditative Mind tea. But blended with that nice, pure white tea are rosebuds and petals and green tea jasmine pearls. And so visually, it makes a very beautiful kind of bouquet. And if you look it up on our site, it's probably one of our prettiest, most striking kind of tea blends. And in terms of flavor, it's not by accident that we have two components in there that are high in oils. So clearly, jasmine flowers, it's their aromatics, the oily kind of aromatics that play into the blend, as well as what we find in rose. And both of those, because of their oily and aromatic qualities, enhance the flavor of the white tea. So the big challenge, the only challenge in blending Meditative Mind white tea, which was actually more complicated than you might guess, was to get the balance of rosebuds and green tea jasmine pearls alongside the white tea in good proportion, so that each element could be recognized and appreciated in the final blend, and yet had a cohesive kind of story and flavor to tell. So I'm going to take a little sip of my steamer before we go on to talk about, that's really good, why Meditative Mind and certain other aromatic, particularly aromatic teas, are great in steamers. So steamers are essentially when you just steep, I actually just cook my tea leaves in milk that's on the stove, but we're a dairy-free family and I didn't have any regular milk here, so I used my almond milk, and it's still wonderful. It still has some fat in it, thank goodness, because the fat is what's necessary in order to bring the aroma out of those compounds, out of those elements, the rosebuds and the jasmine, as well as the white tea. Aromatic compounds are by nature hydrophobic. They don't love water. So it's always surprising to me how the flavor of MedMind, for instance, comes out far more prominently. I just used that tiny little sample packet, and literally it tastes as though I'd put kind of a double serving of Meditative Mind into my mug. Now, why is that? It's because I cooked those tea leaves, or steeped them, in milk as opposed to in water. So even though, in a fatty product instead of water, let's not call it milk because it's a milk alternative. But fat brings out, because of its natural solvent capabilities, so fat is a great solvent, and in particular for aromatic compounds, they love fat. So think about, if you're chopping garlic when you're sick and you make that garlic tea with garlic, lemon, and cayenne in it, for instance, and ginger, of course. And if you were to put those elements into a hot skillet with oil in making some kind of a delicious stir fry or something, their aroma hits you a lot more than when you steep those elements in water, or even just if you even cook them in water. So again, the fat is a great element for pulling out those aromatic compounds. And we even love to make ice cream for the same reason with things like Meditative Mind. Another one that's got a real oily, lovely kind of aromatic profile to it is our Earl of Grey and Our Lady Lavender, which have oil of bergamot in them alongside the tea. So add a little milk to that one and the flavors just play beautifully. So really, today was short and sweet. Hope you are enjoying a cup. I would love to know what people are enjoying on this Friday afternoon to kind of ease into a weekend. Hopefully you're in a part of Colorado or the United States or internationally, where you're not needing to deal with kind of the ongoing smoke situation from all the wildfires. We are definitely in the thick of it today, so it looks like there's a snowstorm going on at the end of my street, but I did just check the news before I got on this broadcast to see that it's actually just smoke that's being blown in from very far away. So even though we are fortunate enough not to be immediately threatened, the air quality is one that causes us to want to kind of stay indoors and comfy up with a really aromatic cup of something that's not smoky. So here's to your health. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Bye-bye.